Way to go, Tic Tac!
That's how you punch.
Wakanda forever!
You wouldn't have heard of me.
Let me put you on hold.
Dance off, bro! He's a friend from work!
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
What up, guys? It's Dom, and welcome back to another movie review. Today we are going over and ranking Despicable Me 4. Despicable Me 4, released in 2024, directed by Chris Renaud and Patrick DeLog. Gru, Lucy, Margot, Edith, and Agnes welcome a new member to the family, Gru Jr., who is intent on tormenting his dad. Gru faces a nemesis in Maxime Lemal and his girlfriend Valentina, and the family is forced to go on the run. So I was visiting family, and this movie just happened to be on the screen, so I said, screw it, I'll watch it, I'll review it. I just didn't know really what to expect of it, because I watched the first Despicable Me, and I honestly really liked it. Then I did watch Despicable Me 2. I remember it was slightly worse than the other one, and I don't remember Despicable Me 3. I think it was the one with his twin brother. I'm not sure. I just know that it did get slightly worse again. So I honestly didn't know what to expect for Despicable Me 4. I assumed that it would be pretty bad because of the theme that it was going with, but I don't know. I just decided still I wanted to watch it, so I did. And honestly, it's very mediocre. It definitely has a lot of things wrong with it, but it does have some good moments as well. It does have some funny moments, and obviously it is mainly directed towards kids, so it's going to prioritize entertainment for kids more than anything else. It's not really going to prioritize deep emotional moments or jokes that adults are going to find as funny. So yeah, I had to watch it kind of with an open mind, but yeah, it's definitely pretty middle of the road. So let's just get right into the 10 essential aspects of a movie. So I actually did think this plot was interesting. I liked the idea of Gru, who used to be a supervillain and now he's a spy, going into witness protection and actually needing to get off the grid and kind of starting this whole new life. And because he is a very antisocial, kind of weird dude, it does become funny when you have to see him try to be this whole different person and kind of have to socialize a little bit. So I thought that was actually somewhat entertaining. I thought it was actually kind of interesting. I feel like it skipped around a bunch, so it felt like it was going a little too fast, and they were kind of moving to new plot points very quickly. But I still think it was pretty good. So the plot, honestly, definitely could use some work, definitely could use some fine tuning, but for what it was, decent. The second essential aspect is attraction. Is this attractive towards kids? 100%. I mean, it's just built for them. It makes jokes that kids will find really, really funny, even if I, for example, don't. But I do think it has plenty of moments that you will find as an adult to be kind of funny. It does have a lot of moments that you find intriguing in the story. And I think Despicable Me has always been good with that, of trying to find a good balance between what's for kids, what's for adults, and what's for both. And they usually do a good job of finding what's good for both. This movie definitely was a little more heavily towards kids. There was some moments where I was just like, why even include this? But obviously I had to think about it, and it makes sense. Kids will find it funny. So for me, not as attractive as it would be for, let's say, my niece, but I still found myself somewhat enjoying it throughout the whole movie. The third essential aspect is theme. Usually it's very easy for me to find a theme for the movie, but I've been thinking for a while now. I have no idea what the theme would be for this movie. I've been trying to come up with it, and I just can't come up with one. The fourth essential aspect is dialogue. I thought the dialogue is basically on par with how all the dialogue is in the Despicable Me movies. I think it's pretty good. It's as realistic as you expect out of this kind of movie when it comes to conversations. So there's not much I can really say about it that's bad, but also not much that I can say is like crazy Oscar-worthy great dialogue. The fifth essential aspect is acting. So obviously this is an animated movie, so it's voice acting that we're talking about. So it is kind of harder to judge whose acting ability really excelled compared to others. But there's two that I do want to speak of. One is the voice of Gru, Steve Carell. He has been Gru for this entire time. So him keeping the same voice and being as iconic is a really good thing, because it doesn't make you take away from the character. When they give a different voice to a character that's been known for so long, that's when it becomes kind of worse, which is why I'm scared for Shrek 5 after I heard that. But I just think he's a great choice for Gru. I think he captures the essence that he had in the first movie very, very well. So that's why I put him in here. And another one I want to talk about is Will Ferrell, who played Maxime, the main villain of this movie. And honestly, it's not even because he voiced him well. He did. But it's because I didn't even recognize that as Will Ferrell. That's one scary thing when you choose a very, very, very popular actor to voice someone, is all you're going to hear is them. Like, for example, Maui in Moana, all you hear is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Now, it's fine because Maui actually looks like The Rock, so it makes sense that you're comparing the two. But if there is any cartoon or animation that has a very, very popular actor that you've heard in many different things, all you can think about is their previous roles or just the actor in general, so you're not really capturing the full essence of the character they're playing. While Maxime, the character to me was a little silly, and it was definitely targeted towards kids, and I didn't find it myself enjoying it as much. But when it came to the actual voice, I didn't see any discrepancies, and I didn't know it was Will Ferrell. So I think he was a good choice because the way that he voiced the character with the accent he used, he didn't take away from the character of Maxine. It's not like I saw Will Ferrell on screen. But these two definitely were the ones that stuck out the most to me after I read who the actors were. And the rest, I mean, all did fine. They sounded like characters. Nothing really especially important towards side characters because they're just there. It's more in charge of the animation than the voice acting. The sixth essential aspect is cinematography. So this movie was animated well. It was animated just like all the other ones in the same style, so thank God that they kept the same style animation. When it came to the emotional side, I mean, you felt it. You definitely can feel that Gru has love for his wife, for his kids, and in general has emotions with him. But again, in a situation like this, in a movie like this, you're not going to feel it as much as in The Wild Robot. You feel it. It doesn't have that same impact because it's meant to be more entertaining than emotional. So it has emotion where it needs to, but it doesn't have much. The seventh essential aspect is editing. This is where I'm going to bring up the pacing issues again. This movie is an hour and 34 minutes long, and I do think that's a good length, but it definitely felt rushed. It felt like they were skipping to the next plot point, to the next plot point, to the next plot point really, really quickly without fully letting the audience develop in what's happening. Now, that doesn't always happen through all the scenes, but there was some that I do remember that felt like they were there and then suddenly they weren't. Like it flickered by. Now, I don't know if that was on purpose. I don't know what their goal was there, but it definitely felt rushed to me. So that's definitely a pacing issue when I have to talk about it. But otherwise, for the length of the movie, I am glad they kept it short. Being the fourth movie in this Despicable Me franchise, not counting the Minions movie, just it doesn't need to be 2 hours. So I am glad they kept it short. I just wish the pacing was a little better. The eighth essential aspect is soundtrack. I honestly thought the soundtrack was really good. I thought that they chose good songs to match the feeling of the characters and the scenes that they were playing during. And overall, for kids' movies, it is important to have songs that have a good beat that kids will either sing along to or dance along to during the movie. So they did capture that well. And they didn't choose songs that were so overly obnoxious that they're going to get really repetitive and annoying when you're watching throughout the movie. So I think overall they did a good job with the soundtrack. The ninth essential aspect is directing. So I feel like it's the director's job to take these previous 8 essential aspects, put them together to make a movie that's worth watching. And this movie had 2 directors. One of them was Patrick Delague, this was the only movie that he's directed. So this is his first time. So honestly, for a first time, it's not that bad. And the other one was Chris Renaud, and he has previously directed 5 movies. And they were Despicable Me, The Lorax, Despicable Me 2, The Secret Life of Pets, and The Secret Life of Pets 2. So obviously, Chris Renaud, he has directed the previous 2 Despicable Me movies, besides the third one. So he has experience with what these characters are supposed to be. So it makes sense that he went back to his roots and kind of reconnected with those other ones, especially with the cameos that were in this movie. I loved seeing some of the characters that were from the previous movies. So I think he did a good job of going back in those roots, going back, connecting it to the first 2 movies, kind of giving it a more Despicable Me feel than the third one had, for example. And he obviously directed the Lorax and the Secret Life of Pets franchise, so he has experience with these animated movies that are meant for kids, and he knows how to make them entertaining to a point. So I think he was a great job, or a great choice for this directing job. And Patrick Delague, I mean, this was his first movie, and from what it seems like, I don't know how much actual input he had on this movie, but overall it was decent, so I have to give him credit for there too. And the 10th essential aspect is time. This movie won't stand the test of time. It just won't. It's just very average. I do feel like it will stand the test of time for one thing, and that is being a part of the Despicable Me franchise. I feel like it is a widely popular collection of movies, especially for people more in their 20s like me, where they grew up with the first Despicable Me. So for that reason, it will be remembered maybe as a sequel to that, but as a standalone movie, it does not stand the test of time. It just doesn't have enough going for it where it's very attention-grabbing and will forever be really memorable. Now, onto the reviews. So, Rotten Tomatoes critics gave it a 56%, Rotten Tomatoes audience gave it an 87%, and IMDb gave it a 62%. Now, I do not believe it deserves to be in the 80s at all, so Rotten Tomatoes audience is just something I'm not gonna agree with. And when it comes to 56 and 62, I think in the 60s is a pretty good range, so I'm not going to agree with critics either. I don't know if it deserves to be in the 60s or the 70s. It's a good movie. I don't know if I will be watching it again. Maybe with my kids, or maybe if it's just on. It's one of those movies where if it's on TV, I'm not going to turn it off, but I'm not going to choose to put it on the TV, if that makes any sense. So maybe 60s and 70s is a pretty good range. It just has some problems, but it also has some things going for it. So it's very mediocre, guys. And finally, the rankings. So in 2024, it's going to be 10th, above The First Omen and below Gladiator 2. Now, it's above The First Omen because this movie is just one that I can find myself watching more often, because The First Omen, it's a horror movie, and so that's not one that you're going to watch very, very often. You're going to watch it when you have a feeling that you want to get scared. The problem I have with The First Omen is it's not that scary. It has some scenes that are gross. It has some scenes that may be kind of tingly feeling, but nothing that outright just really scares me. Even the jump scares, they're kind of expected, just the way that they're placed in. So for a horror movie, it's not that good. It has good cinematography. It has good acting in it. It's just that in general, horror genre that it includes in the movie is not the best, at least in my opinion. I think the concept is way overused with exorcism stuff, so it's just not a great choice for a movie, which is why I have Despicable Me 4 over it, because at least it's a more enjoyable watch and something that you can watch more often with kids or alone. It doesn't really matter. You'll just find yourself at least somewhat enjoying it. And it's below Gladiator 2 just because I think that movie has a lot better cinematography, acting, and in general concept I think is more interesting. Now, it is basically just Gladiator 1 rewrapped with more action, but the thing is, action is entertaining. So I just find myself enjoying that movie a lot more. I think the emotion that it had behind the characters is actual good cinematography that engaged me in the movie. So I just think it has all these different things that Despicable Me doesn't have, that it just offers more for me. So that's why I put it above it. In the 2020s, it's going to be 14th, again above The First Omen and below Gladiator 2, so I'm not going to explain why. And in all time, it's also going to be, it's in 39th, also above The First Omen and below Gladiator 2. It just happened to be in between both in all three lists, so it was a very quick ranking session. That's all I have for Despicable Me 4. If you guys enjoyed this review, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and make sure to comment what movie you want me to review next. Have you guys seen this movie? Let me know what you thought of it. Let me know how it compares to the Despicable Me franchise and in general in movies at all. I love hearing when people actually have an opinion on a movie that I've done. I like starting a conversation in the comments. So anything that you want to talk about, just comment it down below. And also make sure to comment what movie you want me to review next, because I only have a few on that list, so I'll get through them pretty quickly. So I just need more people to comment. So don't forget to. And if you want to see someone that does something very similar to me, check out my best friend, Mr. Majoritarian. He does literally the same thing. He's a movie reviewer. He goes over the 10 essential aspects. He goes over the reviews, has his own lists and rankings. And of course, his opinion is slightly different than mine. So you will get a completely different list from him. So definitely go check him out. His link's always in my description. And I hope you guys have an amazing night. Peace out.